Imagine you're on a rooftop at dusk. The city sprawling beneath you like a sea of twinkling lights. Across from you stands a Sagittarius, eyes glinting with mischief. A laugh that echoes like a melody. And a story about last week's impromptu road trip spilling from their lips. There's something magnetic about them, isn't there? A fire that draws you in. A promise of adventure that makes your pulse quicken. Born between November 22nd and December 21st. These cosmic archers are ruled by Jupiter, the planet of expansion, optimism, and uncontainable zest. Dating one? It's like trying to hold a flame, thrilling, unpredictable, and oh so worth it. Welcome to Esoteric Wisdom, where we decode the stars to light up your love life. Today, we're diving into the art of dating a Sagittarius, how to win their wild heart and keep that spark blazing bright. I've spent years studying the zodiac, chatting with archers and their partners over coffee and sometimes tequila, and watching how their fiery spirit dances through romance. Here's the truth, they're not here for the ordinary. They crave freedom, passion, and a connection that feels like a grand adventure. So, whether you're a middle-aged woman wondering if this free spirit's worth the chase, a younger soul smitten by their charm, or a guy trying to crack their cosmic code, this is for you. Grab a drink, coffee if you're mulling, wine if you're dreaming, and let's embark on this journey. By the end, you'll have a playbook of tips, sprinkled with real stories and starry wisdom, to not just catch a Sagittarius but keep them enchanted. Curious? Good. That's the first step to winning their heart. Let's dive in. Chapter 1. Decoding the Sagittarius Soul. Who are you falling for? Before you even think about winning a Sagittarius, you've got to peel back the layers of their wild, radiant soul. They're not just another sign on the zodiac wheel, they're a force. A whirlwind of fire and freedom that sweeps through life with an untamed grace. Born between November 22nd and December 21st, these cosmic archers stride into the world as the days shorten and the air chills. Yet they burn with a warmth that defies the season. Ruled by Jupiter, the planet of boundless expansion, unbridled optimism, and a hunger for more. They're the zodiac's adventurers, always chasing the next horizon. Bow in hand, eyes glinting with possibility. Dating one isn't just a fling, it's stepping into a story that's equal parts exhilarating and unpredictable. So, who are you falling for? Let's unravel the mystery of the Sagittarius soul and find out what makes their heart tick. Picture this, it's a crisp evening, and you're sitting across from a Sagittarius at a rickety picnic table. The kind you'd find at a roadside diner. They're telling you about the time they hitchhiked across a state line just to see a meteor shower. Their voice alive with laughter. Their hands waving like they're painting the sky. There's a spark in their gaze, a mix of mischief and wonder, that pulls you in like gravity. That's the fire sign energy at work. One of three in the zodiac. Alongside Aries and Leo, Sagittarius doesn't just glow, they blaze. But their flame is distinct. Less a roaring bonfire like Leo's or a charging spark like Aries, and more a wildfire. Spreading wide and free, impossible to contain. They're born in that liminal space where autumn fades into winter, a time of transition, yet they carry an eternal spring in their spirit, restless, vibrant, and ready to bloom. Jupiter's influence is the key to understanding them. In astrology, this giant planet isn't just about luck, though they've got plenty of that, it's about growth, exploration, and a relentless push to live larger than life. Think of Jupiter as their cosmic cheerleader, whispering in their ear, why settle for small when the universe is yours? It's why they're the optimists of the zodiac. The ones who'd turn a flat tire into a roadside picnic, cracking jokes while the tow truck's on its way. I once met a Sagittarian named Leo, ironic, right? Who laughed off a cancelled flight and convinced his stranded group to explore the airport city instead. We found a dive bar with the best tacos, he told me later, grinning, better than the trip I'd planned. That's them in a nutshell. They don't just roll with the punches, they dance with them. Freedom is their lifeblood, their oxygen, their non-negotiable. Try to cage a Sagittarius, and you'll watch them wilt faster than a flower in a frost. I knew a woman named Tara, a classic archer with a mane of untamed curls and a habit of disappearing when things got too heavy. She'd been on a string of dates with a guy who seemed perfect, steady job. Sweet smile, but the moment he started hinting at settling down, she was gone. I need room to breathe, she told me over coffee, her boots already twitching toward the door. It's not that they don't love deeply, they do. Fiercely, but they're not running from you, they're running towards something bigger. A dream, a quest, a feeling, and the magic? They want you to come along. To chase it with them. Not to clip their wings. Then there's their curiosity, endless. Shimmering, almost childlike in its purity. A Sagittarius doesn't ask questions to fill silence, they ask because they genuinely want to know you. To map the corners of your mind. Over a late-night whiskey. My Sagittarian friend Sam once grilled me about my teenage dreams, why I'd wanted to be a writer. What stories I'd scribbled in secret. He listened, head tilted, like I was a book he couldn't put down. They're like that, philosophers with a playful edge, always digging for truth, and yes, that truth-seeking comes with a bluntness that can catch you off guard. My ex, a Sagittarius through and through, once took a bite of my attempt at lasagna and declared, "Babe, this is an experiment gone wrong." I winced, but he was right, the cheese had congealed into something unholy. They don't mean to wound, they just can't help calling it as they see it. Adventure pulses through their veins, it's not optional. It's essential, whether it's a physical trek, like scaling a mountain at dawn, or a mental one, like debating the meaning of life over a flickering campfire. They're happiest when they're in motion. I remember a Sagittarian coworker, Maya, who'd turn our dull office lunches into mini escapades, once dragging us to a food truck rally. Another time convincing us to sneak into a rooftop concert. Life's too short to sit still, she'd say, her laugh ringing out like a bell. That's the rhythm they march to, a beat that's fast, free, and fearless. Dating them means sinking to that tempo, stepping into a world where spontaneity reigns and routine is the enemy. But here's the catch, they're not perfect. That same fire that lights up a room can flare too hot, leaving scorch marks if you're not careful. Their restlessness can feel like distance, their honesty like a slap. Yet beneath it all is a heart that's generous, bold, and aching for a connection that matches their intensity. They're not here for shallow waters, they want the deep end. The big waves, the kind of love that feels like a journey. I think of my aunt's Sagittarian partner, a man who once drove 200 miles to surprise her with a bouquet of wildflowers he'd picked himself. Couldn't wait. He shrugged when she asked why. That's the Sagittarius soul, impulsive, romantic, and always aiming for something grand. So, who are you falling for? A dreamer with a wicked grin. A wanderer who'll pull you into their orbit if you dare to keep up. They're not the type to hand you a rulebook, they'd rather burn it and write their own story with you. Dating a Sagittarius means embracing the chaos, the laughter, the late nights that stretch into dawn. It's a ride, not a rest stop, and it starts with understanding the wild heart behind the bow. Ready to take aim? Good, because once you step into their world, there's no going back, and trust me, you won't want to. Chapter 2. The First Spark, How to Catch a Sagittarius Eye. So, you've got your sights on a Sagittarius, and now it's time to light that first spark, the moment they're restless. Starry gaze lands on you and thinks, this could be worth chasing. These archers aren't won over by half-hearted gestures or timid glances, they're drawn to a vibe. A pulse, a flicker of something extraordinary. They're fire signs, after all, magnetic, bold, and always on the hunt for a thrill. Winning their attention isn't about playing hard to get, it's about showing up with a fire of your own. Let's break down how to catch their eye and make them curious enough to notch an arrow in your direction. Be bold and authentic. Shine like you mean it. First rule of the Sagittarius game? Be yourself, unapologetically, fearlessly you. They've got a sixth sense for phoniness, and nothing sends them sprinting faster than a mask. They're not here for polished perfection, they want raw, real, and a little rough around the edges. I've got a friend, Jen, who's living proof of this. She met her Sagittarian boyfriend, Nate, at a dive bar on a rainy Tuesday. No makeup, hair a mess. She didn't bat an eyelash or play coy. Instead, she marched over, challenged him to a game of pool, and proceeded to trash talk him into next week. You call that a shot? My grandma's got better aim. she teased, sinking the 8-ball with a smirk. Nate was smitten. She had guts. He told me later, his grin wide as the horizon. I couldn't look away. That's the trick. Don't dim your quirks or soften your edges. Whether you're loud, shy, nerdy, or wild, let it rip. They'll love the honesty more than any rehearsed line. Embrace spontaneity. Shake up their world. Routine is a Sagittarius kryptonite. They'd rather chew glass than sit through predictable. To catch their eye, you've got to throw a curveball. Something that jolts them out of the everyday. Suggest a last-minute adventure, say, piling into a car to chase a sunset or crashing a local art walk with no plan beyond. Let's see what happens. They live for the unexpected. The kind of moments that turn into stories. Take Brad Pitt, born December 18, 1963, a textbook Sagittarius heartthrob. Back in his early days with Angelina Jolie, their romance kicked off with whirlwind trips. Think private planes to Morocco or adopting kids on a whim. Classic Archer energy, impulsive, grand, and impossible to ignore. You don't need a jet. Though, small surprises work too. I once saw a guy snag a Sagittarian's attention at a coffee shop by suggesting they ditch their lattes and hunt down a food truck instead. Why not? He shrugged. And she was hooked. Show them your game for the ride. And they'll start picturing you in it. Spark their mind. Ignite a cosmic conversation. A Sagittarius doesn't just fall for a pretty face, they're suckers for a sharp mind. They crave conversations that dance between deep, funny, and downright weird. Hit them with a question that lights up their curiosity. What's the wildest thing on your bucket list? Or, do you think aliens are already here? Just chilling? They'll dive in, eager to swap theories and tales. My pal Sam, a Sagittarian through and through, once fell hard for a woman he met at a party. She didn't flirt with giggles or hair flips. She locked eyes with him and asked, if time travel were real, where'd you go first? An hour later, they were still arguing, him insisting on ancient Rome, her holding firm for the Renaissance. She didn't back down. He told me, starry-eyed, I was done for. That's your in. Engage their brain, not just their heart. Toss out a playful debate, say, whether pineapple belongs on pizza, or share a random story from your life. Like the time you got lost on a road trip and ended up at a llama farm. They'll eat it up, and suddenly, you're not just a face in the crowd, you're a puzzle they want to solve. Play it cool, let them hunt. Here's the kicker, don't chase too hard. Sagittarius folks are hunters, not prey. Their thrill comes from the pursuit. Flirt with confidence, sure, but leave room for them to step toward you. Think of it like a dance, lead with a bold step. Then ease back and let them match your rhythm. I watched this play out at a bonfire once. A guy named Mark caught a Sagittarian woman's eye by tossing out a witty one-liner. You look like trouble. Good thing I'm a problem solver. Then wandered off to grab a drink. She followed, intrigued, and by the end of the night, they were swapping numbers. He didn't cling, he dangled the bait and let her bite. That's your move. Show you're a partner in crime, not a leash. They'll notice the difference. Catching a Sagittarius eye is about standing out without trying too hard. Be bold. Be spontaneous. Be the one who makes their world a little brighter. Light that first spark, and you've got their attention. Now, the real fun begins, fanning it into a flame they can't resist. Chapter 3. Fanning the flames, building a connection they can't resist. You've caught the Sagittarius eye, congrats. You've lit the match. Now comes the real art. Fanning that flicker into a flame they can't walk away from. This isn't about locking them down, good luck with that. It's about building a connection that feels like a bonfire, warm, wild, and alive. These archers thrive on passion and freedom. So deepening your bond means striking a balance between closeness and space, adventure and ease. Here's how to turn that first spark into something they'll keep coming back to. With stories and starry tips to guide your way. Give them space. Let the archer roam. Freedom isn't just a perk for a Sagittarius, it's their lifeline. Push too hard, cling too tight, and you'll snuff out the flame before it can grow. They need room to stretch their wings, to chase their whims without feeling tethered. I learned this the hard way with a Sagittarian I dated years back. He was a whirlwind, funny, charming, always planning some crazy outing. But I got greedy, texting him nonstop, asking where he was, what he was doing. One night, over beers, he looked at me with those honest eyes and said, "I need air, you know? I'm not gone, I just can't breathe like this." Poof, he was out the door. And I was left with a bruised ego and a lesson. The trick? Let them wander. Trust that if the connection's real, they'll circle back. Think of it like a boomerang, toss it out, and it returns stronger. My friend Clara nailed this with her Sagittarian girlfriend. When she'd vanish for a solo weekend sketching in the mountains, Clara didn't pout, she sent a text, "Bring me a rock or something cool." Sure enough, she'd come home with a grin and a chunky quartz, ready to pick up where they left off. Space doesn't mean distance, it means trust. Join the adventure, be their ride or die. A Sagittarius doesn't want a spectator, they want a co-conspirator. Someone who'll dive into their wild ideas headfirst. Say yes to the chaos, a rainy camping trip, a salsa class where you both trip over your feet, a midnight drive to a town you've never heard of. It's not about the destination, it's about the rush of doing it together. My cousin Mia snagged her Sagittarian wife, Lauren, this way. Early on, Lauren suggested kayaking under a full moon, no gear, no plan, just vibes. Mia, who'd never paddled a day in her life, said, "Screw it, I'm in." They capsized twice, laughed until they cried, and Lauren still brags about it. She paddled like a champ, wet, pissed, and perfect. I knew she was my person. That's the magic. Show your game for their world. Don't just nod along, grab a paddle, a map, a silly costume, whatever they're throwing out there. I knew a guy who won his Sagittarian crush over by agreeing to a spontaneous, haunted house hunt in an old neighborhood. They didn't find ghosts, but they found each other. Giggling in the dark, be the one who says yes, and they'll see you as their partner in the grand adventure of life. Laugh together. Keep the vibe light and bright. Humor is a Sagittarius superpower, sharp, playful, and a little irreverent. Match it, and you've got a direct line to their heart. They love a good tease, a shared joke, a story that sends you both into hysterics. Taylor Swift, born December 13, 1989, embodies this Sagittarian trait. Her lyrics drip with wit, and exes have spilled that her laugh was what hooked them. You don't need to be a comedian, just keep it light. Poke fun at their terrible parking skills, gently, they'll fire back. Or recount that time you accidentally dyed your hair green. My friend Jake bonded with his Sagittarian partner, Riley, over a disastrous cooking attempt. We made a pact to never speak of the Great Pancake Fire. Riley cackled, but they still bring it up, collapsing into giggles. Laughter's their glue, it cuts through tension and keeps things fresh. Once, at a party, I watched a woman win a Sagittarian guy's attention by deadpanning. "You dance like a drunk giraffe. But I respect the effort." He howled, grabbed her hand, and they were twirling across the floor 5 minutes later. Find the funny, and you'll find the way in. Balance the dance. Close, but not too close. This stage is all about rhythm, stepping in to connect, stepping back to let them breathe. Show you're invested without laying down roots they're not ready for. Share a deep talk under the stars one night, then give them a day to roam solo. Join their crazy plans, but don't crowd their every move. It's like tending a fire, pile on too much wood, and it smothers, give it air, and it roars. When they see you as a partner who gets their need for freedom and fun, they'll start to lean in, not because you're pulling, but because they want to. That's when the connection becomes irresistible. A bond that's loose enough to feel free, strong enough to feel real. Fanning the flames with a Sagittarius means embracing their spirit, wild, witty, and wonderfully untamed. Give them space to soar. Join their adventures, and laugh until your sides ache. Do that, and they'll start to see you as more than a spark. You'll be the fire they can't resist coming home to. Chapter 4. Keeping the spark alive. Long-term love with an archer. Winning a Sagittarius heart is one thing, keeping it ablaze long-term is the real adventure. These archers don't settle for stale, they need a love that crackles with energy, evolves with them, and never feels like a trap. So, how do you sustain that wild flame? It's about keeping things dynamic, growing together, and honoring their untamed spirit. Here's your cosmic playbook. Mix it up. Ban the boring. Routine is a Sagittarius nemesis. They'd rather wrestle a bear than endure predictability. Keep them hooked by tossing surprises into the mix. Plan a random picnic under the stars. Drag them to a pottery class neither of you can master. Or book a weekend getaway to a quirky town. My friends Anna and her Sagittarian husband, Tom, swear by this. Their adventure dates range from goat yoga, he still talks about the nibbling, to impromptu karaoke nights where they butcher classics together. It keeps me guessing, Tom says, eyes twinkling. You don't need grand gestures, small twists like cooking a bizarre recipe or hiking a new trail work too. The point? Show them life with you is a perpetual thrill ride. Grow together. Feed their Jupiter soul. Ruled by Jupiter, the planet of expansion, Sagittarius craves growth, mental, emotional, spiritual. Stagnation bores them, evolution excites them. Dive into a shared passion, take a cooking course, learn a language, or debate philosophy over cheap wine. Steven Spielberg, December 18, 1946, and Kate Capshaw have thrived for decades this way. Blending creativity and curiosity into their bond. You could start simpler, read a book together, chase a mutual dream, or explore a big, what if? My neighbor's Sagittarian partner, Lila, lit up when they tackled a photography project, snapping odd corners of their city. It's us against the world. She beamed. Growth keeps them tethered without tying them down. Respect their independence. Love without leashes. Even in love, they need solo space, don't mistake it for rejection. A Sagittarius might vanish for a solo hike or a night with their thoughts, let them. My friend's partner, Max, takes monthly solo camping trips. It's how I recharge, he explains, returning with stories and a grin. Push back, and they'll pull away, give them room. And they'll choose you again. It's a dance of trust, step back. And watch them step closer. Keep the spark alive by being their anchor, not their cage, and they'll burn for you longer than you'd dare hope. Chapter 5. Navigating the rough patches, handling their fire. No love story's flawless, and a Sagittarius fire can flare into storms. Their passion is a double-edged sword, thrilling one minute, tricky the next. Rough patches hit hard, but you can weather them by understanding their quirks and meeting them halfway. Here's how to handle the heat. The blunt truth. Take it in stride. Sagittarius doesn't mince words, their honesty can sting like a slap. If they say your new haircut's a disaster, don't sulk, laugh. My Sagittarian sister once called my cookies a crime scene. I fumed. Then realized they were a mess. It's not malice, it's their truth radar. Roll with it, tease them back or shrug it off. They'll respect your resilience. When my friend's Sagittarian date said his shirt was hideous, he grinned. Good thing my face saves it. She laughed, and the tension melted. Restless vibes. Spice up the slump. When they get bored, they drift. Restlessness is their nature. Don't panic, pivot. If they're pulling away, shake things up. Tara's boyfriend seemed distant once, so she planned a scavenger hunt, clues hidden around town. Snapped him right back, she said, triumphant. Suggest a wild outing or a silly challenge, they'll re-engage. I knew a couple where she countered his funk with a paint war in their yard, messy. Fun, and a total reset. Keep the energy flowing, and they'll stay present. Commitment jitters. Patience, not pressure. They fear cages more than clowns. If forever talk spooks them, ease off, focus on now. Not next year. Share dreams casually, not ultimatums. My cousin's Sagittarian fiancé balked at wedding plans until she framed it as a party to kick off our next adventure. He was in. Their flaws, bluntness, restlessness, fear, are their strengths on overdrive. Meet them with humor, spontaneity, and space, and you'll sail through the storms to calmer skies. Chapter 6. The Real Stories, Love Lessons from the Archers. Let's ground this starry wisdom with real tales, proof the Sagittarius way works when you crack their code. These stories show the highs, lows, and lessons of loving an archer. Anthony Bourdain, The Fire That Flared. Anthony Bourdain, November 25, 1956, lived the Sagittarian life, restless, roaming, and romantic. His love with Asia Argento was pure fire, global jaunts. Passionate clashes, a whirlwind of freedom. They thrived on spontaneity, filming in Hanoi. Devouring street food, but trust faltered. And it crashed. Lesson? Feed the spark with adventure. But anchor it with faith. Bourdain's story is a bittersweet reminder. Sagittarius hearts burn bright but need a steady hand to hold. Lisa and her trekker, the free-spirited win. Then there's Lisa, my Sedona guide friend. She met her Sagittarian partner, Dan, on a desert trek, 6 years later. They're rock solid. Their secret? Mutual independence. She leads tours, he builds furniture. They reunite for wild weekends, canyoneering. Stargazing, no strings. He gets me, Lisa says. We don't chain each other, we lift each other. Once, Dan vanished for a solo climb. She didn't fret. Just welcomed him back with a beer. Lesson? Give them wings. Join their dance. And love grows unshackled. These tales, Bourdain's blaze and Lisa's balance, show the Sagittarius truth. They're worth the chase if you match their rhythm. Whether it's a fleeting flame or a lasting glow, their love teaches you to live bolder. What's your Archer story? Share it. Let's keep the cosmic fire burning. Conclusion: your Archer's love map. So, where do you stand with your Sagittarius? We've walked the path, catching their eye, building the bond, keeping it alive, and weathering the wild. They're not easy, but they're worth it. A love that's bold, free, and unforgettable. At Esoteric Wisdom, we believe the stars don't limit you, they light the way. Whether you're a 60-something woman ready for a fiery fling or a younger heart chasing their flame, your story's yours to write. Take a breath, aim your arrow, and step into their world. Tell me in the comments, what's your Sagittarius love story? Let's keep this cosmic fire burning.